All right, I'm Brian Entin. Hey, everybody. Welcome to NewsNation. I'm in for Chris Cuomo tonight. Today, the world saw the white smoke, and for the first time in history, an American pope will now be the leader of 1.4 billion Catholics around the world. It was 6:07 p.m. Vatican time. That's when 69-year-old Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost of Chicago, Illinois, was elected by the conclave and took the name Leo XIV. Now, Pope Leo, he grew up in a southern suburb of Chicago. He attended Villanova University in Pennsylvania, where he studied philosophy. He earned a degree in mathematics. He later joined the Order of St. Augustine in St. Louis, Missouri. And in 1982, he was officially ordained a priest in Rome. Now, the new pope later relocated to Peru, where he served in various missions. In 2023, he then moved his ministry to the Vatican, where he has been until now. Now, because Pope Leo XIV is now the first American to lead the Catholic Church, we, of course, do what we do as Americans best, and we make memes. Pope Francis himself brought Pope Leo to the Vatican just a few years ago. Here's what the new pope had to say about that meeting. Take a listen.
I think I do have some insights into the church in the United States. So the need to be able to advise, work with Pope Francis, and to look at the challenges that the church in the United States is facing. I hope to be able to respond to them with a healthy dialogue, as we've already begun, with all the bishops of the United States, and to continue to look for ways to be church in the day, this day and age that we're living in.
So interesting to hear a pope with an American accent. Joining me now to break it all down, someone who has known the new pope for most of his life. They even went to college together, Reverend William Lego. And also we've got Notre Dame theology professor, Dr. Andrew Swafford. Thank you both for being with us. Father Bill, I want to start with you. You grew up with Pope Leo. What's your reaction to all this? What did you think when you first heard the news, our first American pope, a man who you know?
Well, it's always surprising when somebody gets a really big position, but it's not really unexpected. My experience with Pope Leo, now I keep calling him Father Robert, is that he's very capable. He has great insights into things, and he has a world experience because of being our prior general for Augustinians, and knowing him when we were 13 years together in our seminary formation from an olden time when you had high school seminaries, then we went to college. Then we did our 1-year novitiate, which is special for Augustinians, is a year of discernment. And then we had 4 years of theology. And then that's when our paths kind of split. Pope went to the Vatican, went to Rome to study, and so that switched. But during it all, he was a person that always was very organized. He listens to people. Probably he takes time to make decisions because he really tries to get all the information before he would make a decision. So that might, at times, could be a little frustrating for people that they may want snap decisions, for somebody new. But he's going to take his time to pray and discern and gather as much information as possible.
I'm curious, Dr. Swafford, it seems like America gets so much hate around the world lately. People want us to think that nobody likes us. At least that's what some of the media seems to portray. But they chose an American as the new pope. What do you think? How did you react to it?
Oh, gosh. I mean, just with great joy, so surprised, so shocked, and I just kind of moved by watching him, when he was on the loggia and you could see the tears well up in his eyes and just him kind of taking in the moment. And then, later on in his remarks, referred to himself as, I'm a son of St. Augustine. With you, I am Christian. For you, I am bishop. And as Father knows, Augustine in that context there, he's speaking of the trepidation he has with the duty of being bishop, but the great consolation and the saving mercy of Christ in being a Christian. And so I just think great joy. I think he can be a unifying figure, can bring different parts of the church together. He's an American, but he spent so much time, as you all know, in Peru as a missionary, as a bishop down there. So I'm just really excited for this.
Yeah, it was just so interesting to hear him speak in that soundbite, to hear the American accent. He didn't speak English at all today when he addressed the crowd. He spoke only in Italian. Did that surprise you? Were you expecting, since he's American, some form of English in his address?
My read on that was that it was intentional, I think. I think, it was him this is just my read on it, kind of saying, I am the Pope of the whole world. I'm not just the Pope of America, Pope of the States, speaking in Italian, in Spanish, praying the Ave Maria in Latin. I think it was a gesture toward the universality of the office.
Yeah. Father Bill, there's still a lot of mistrust with the church. You think back to the sex scandal, it's still very raw for a lot of people. How do you think Pope Leo is going to handle that moving forward and address it?
So he will be respectful to any allegations and stuff that are brought up. You always respect those people who bring the allegations, and he will work to find and minister to those who have been abused, and also then make sure that the abusers, in any case, are not allowed to do it any further. So I'm sure he'll be okay. I'm sure he'll do due diligence in that.
Pope Francis, a lot of us think of him as being very low-key, didn't like all the pomp and circumstance, down to earth, didn't even live at the Vatican. Do you think we can expect that also from Pope Leo? Do they have similar characteristics in that way, Father Bill?
Yeah, Bob is a very simple person and stuff. I mean, we all have our likes and dislikes of some stuff. One of the things I do remember about him, he loves to drive. So that's going to be very interesting if he's going to ever drive the Pope-mobile. He really likes to drive. That was one of the things I always remember about him and like to travel. But I think he always lived simply. That was one of his characteristics. He wasn't very extravagant.
Yeah,
in what he had.
It's hard to imagine him being able to drive anymore. Though I guess you never know. They let Pope Francis live off-site. Do you think he expected it at all, Father Bill? I mean, I think back to with Pope Francis, he had his airline ticket back home. He didn't expect it at all. Do you think that Pope Louis did?
I don't know, because even though we're classmates for all these years, we haven't had a lot of contact because of the way God called us to different ministries in the church. But I would think that as it became apparent to him how he was invited by Pope Francis to become more a member, of the College of Cardinals, it probably crossed his mind, especially since he was our prior general of the Augustinians. So it wasn't like he wouldn't expect a leadership role. I'm not saying he was wanting it, but it wouldn't be that much of a surprise to him based on his experience in the church.
What's he like behind the scenes? I mean, obviously, we're going to see the side of him now as the Pope, and we've got some sound bites, but is he funny? Is he warm? How would you describe him?
At times he can be funny. He's very warm. Like I told other people who have asked me, since I'm his classmate, I said, my memories of him are from a time when we were in the seminary. I don't know if I would want to be judged how I was 20 years ago.
Right. Right.
That's and his world experiences have shaped him. To be the person now who is the pontiff. So I can't really answer that. Does he have a sense of humor at times? Can it be serious? Yeah. Can it be relaxed? Yeah. But, I can't really tell you he's going to do this in that situation.
What do you think, Dr. Swafford, are the biggest challenges that are going to face him day one with the church right now?
As I think about it, I think the office of the papacy is just almost astronomically impossible. I mean, you are a diplomat on the world stage. You're expected to be telegenic, media savvy, a scholar, a clear teacher, the chief evangelist. I think unity in the church, in the world, I think I see him as a bridge figure. I mean, the name Pope Leo XIV, Leo XIII, you think of Catholic social thought. He's at the fountainhead of that with Rerum Novarum in 1891. And I just really see him bringing different things together, the kind of evangelical spirit of Pope Francis. But, our new Holy Father has a doctorate in canon law as well. So I think what people really want, I work with young people here at Benedictine College where I teach, and they're starving for truth, for meaning, but truth and love together. So bringing truth and love together, love without truth can become mere sentiment, but truth without love is sterile. That's not Christian. So to bring the two together, I think that's really what the church needs. And I think he's the man for the job.
He's the youngest pope since John Paul II. Do you think, Dr. Swafford, that's an indication that he will be a more liberal pope?
I tend to think that conservative, liberal, all these political categories, the church always must be a sign of contradiction. Every age of the church, certain parts of what she believes is going to fit more with the age, and certain parts are going to run against it. I don't know. I just think that he, to be for the poor, Catholic social thought. That's part of what it means to be Catholic. To be for the unborn who can't even cry to defend themselves. That's part of being Catholic. So I think all those categories, we can use them. They're helpful. They're kind of heuristic, but they're going to break down. And I really think and hope and pray, and I think this is what every pope strives to be, is a sign of contradiction to the world, that we are disciples of the Lord Jesus, and so we're not going to fit in any political box.
How do you think he will handle President Trump's policies? Do you think they're going to come head to head at some point?
I mean, I'm sure they will. I think, just given what I just said, with any president, any party, there's going to be friction, right? Because Christianity, being Catholic, is a global and historic phenomenon, and it's not just in the Midwest United States, right? So I'm sure there's going to be tension at certain points, but that's all part of it. But again, we bow to Jesus, to the Holy Spirit, and we just have to kind of cling to that, and not force the faith into political categories, and not see the faith really a means to a political end. That's to flip things upside down.
Yeah, it is interesting how we sort of try to politicize all of this and put the Pope in either a liberal or a conservative box, which is clearly not the case. But Father Bill, I'm curious what you think about it, because people are already going through his tweets. Had retweeted a couple of articles about J.D. Vance. I mean, how do you, based on what you know about him, how do you think he's going to handle that component of the job?
Well, like I said, he's a person who thinks and gets a lot of information, and before he really acts. I mean, I didn't see the tweets about Vance, so I'm not familiar with what he said, but I'm sure whenever he does stuff, it's been highly thought of and prayed over. So I'm not quite sure what type of answer that you're looking for. So I don't really know how he's going to respond.
Yeah, I guess.
Like I said, it was.
We'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, and the tweets were from a couple of years ago, so he probably wasn't at that point assuming that he was going to be the Pope.
Right. So that's
Yeah.
But I do know he always thinks, and he gets information, and he doesn't make decisions lightly.
Right. Okay. Good to know. Father Bill, Dr. Andrew Swafford from Benedictine College, appreciate you both for coming on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
All right. So should we be telling people who they can and who they can't donate to? This has become a hot button issue on social media after the Christian crowdfunding website GiveSendGo allowed a string of high-profile and highly controversial people to raise money. For example, Shiloh Hendricks, who went viral last week after a video emerged where she was accused of calling a 5-year-old black child the N-word. It is an awful video if you watch it. Hendricks started a fundraising page. This is even worse. And she wrote, "I called the kid out for what he was." Hendricks says she's trying to raise money to relocate and protect her family from the online hate she's received, and has raised nearly $1 million. Wow. Another example is 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, the black teen who was charged last month in the fatal stabbing of a white teen named Austin Metcalf. Anthony began fundraising for his legal defense, and more than $500,000 has now poured in. You can see the goal there, $600,000. And another one, Rodney Hinton Jr., a black man who was just charged with running over a police officer shortly after his son was killed by a different white cop. He has raised nearly $20,000. So should people like this really be allowed to raise money online? After all, they've all already been blocked by sites like GoFundMe. So they turned to the site GiveSendGo. And joining me now, the co-founder and CFO, Jacob Wells. Jacob, thank you for being with us tonight. I guess I just don't understand why you would want to allow this woman, Shiloh Hendricks, call the little boy the N-word. And the video is just awful. And then in the description on your website, backs it up again. Why not just block her? And she's raised almost $1 million, so she's now going to be a millionaire, and that's because of you, it seems like.
Well, it's definitely not because of me. It's because of people donating to her, which I'm not one of them. We're a platform, so people are donating to her from a variety of different places. But the deeper question, one is, why do we allow campaigns that even we sometimes may disagree with? Well, because in America, we have freedoms that came at a very high price. And that was the blood of men and women that gave up their lives so that we could live in a society where even things that we disagree with can be spoken about. But there's also other aspects to this whole thing, which is what do we give to the mob to be able to go after people with a snapshot of their life blown over social media as a way to completely destroy them? And this mob mentality has absolutely ruined so many people's lives over the past several years. And we can actually just look in the recent past. 3 weeks ago in Nevada, a veterinarian who was giving some medicine to a horse kicked the horse, and it was caught on video, and then it was sent live on public social media. And because of the outrage of that brief moment, and this guy who's had a successful career, he goes and takes his life. He commits suicide because of the outrage, because of a social media video clip.
But that's different than the woman. And I get what you're saying, and we're against cancel culture, and I hear you with the veterinarian. But that is different than the woman on camera calling the little boy the N-word.
No, so let's just clarify some of the facts. So one,
but you hear her voice.
No, I'm just going to clarify some of the facts. We don't know the age of this child, so that's contestant rate number one. The boy was rummaging through her belongings, which caused the backlash. So it wasn't like she unprovoked just stepped into a situation and called a young boy a term. It was because this boy, who some people say is as old as 10 years old, was actually stealing from her. And she said, no, that doesn't excuse, I don't condone calling people racial epithets and bad names at all. But there is a place for, I mean, there was GoFundMe allowed a campaign for the boy and his family, and it raised $350,000. So is that condoning thievery or stealing? I don't see the outrage against GoFundMe.
I guess I just don't understand how, when you watch that video and then see what she posted on your site, and again, big picture, I hear what you're saying about mob mentality and cancel culture. I do. But that video just bothered me so much. And then to see what she wrote again, I'm just thinking, if I owned the site and I controlled it, you know, you could pick and choose. You could say, this is not good. We're a Christian site. Like, no.
Well, no, that's true. We can pick and choose. And what we realize is that the mission of GiveSendGo is to share the hope of Jesus in dark moments. And we realize that Shiloh is going through a dark moment just as much as this other family is. And we want to be a light in all of these moments. And the way that you approach them—
But it's $1 million. It's money. It's not a light. You're not going and knocking on her door and saying, hey, let me help you learn how to be a better person. Let's figure out why you use that word. But she's going to get $1 million.
Well, from small donations, average donation size, I think around $30 a person. So not massive amounts by individuals. And that's partially fueled also by the Carmelo Anthony campaign, which you made reference to in the teaser to this. The Carmelo Anthony campaign caused a lot of outrage as well. And we seat ourselves on principle on these issues rather than emotion. You have to take a step back from the emotion of these, because they are very highly emotional issues. And you say, what are we going to land on in principle? And in America, we operate on principles, and they actually create social fabric unity. And when we undermine those principles for the sake of mob outrage or emotionalism or sensationalism, we actually undermine the principles that hold us together as a culture. So in like Carmelo's case, he deserves the presumption of innocence until proven guilty in a court of law, just like everyone does. And the moment that we begin to undermine that principle for anyone, it becomes nullified for everybody. And I can provide a very strong case for why we've set our jurisprudence, our legal system, on the cornerstone of presumption of innocence, because it's good for our societies to flourish, and many other reasons. These are the reasons why we do these things. They're actually principled reasons, not emotional reasons. So I get they're hard situations, they're difficult moments, but you got to take a step back from the emotion. You got to say, hey, listen, what's going on here? Should people have the right to make donations and give money to people of their own choosing? Yes, they should be able to.
How much do you make off of these donations? Is there a percentage?
Yeah, it's a great question. No, we're actually a free platform. We kind of broke the mold a little bit when we created GiveSendGo because all the other platforms were taking 5 to 10% of every donation that they received. And we said, you know, it doesn't make sense to take money from people that are raising money because they need the money they're raising. Why don't we just ask for generosity from people that are giving? And so we created a system where people can optionally donate to GiveSendGo if they choose to. It's completely voluntary. They don't have to. So people don't have to donate to us if they don't want to.
So when they
And
donate,
oftentimes
they can
don't.
click to donate to you, and that's how you make money. But it doesn't come out of
That's
the
correct.
percentage that goes to these people. But you
Correct,
are
and it's
making money,
voluntary.
obviously. The more people come on, the more people that that click on that. You're making you're making a living off of this website.
Yeah, it employs over 40 employees. We have campaigns around the world. We're available in 80 countries. Millions of people use GiveSendGo.
So what have you made? Just Shiloh Hendricks, for example. What have you made off of the people who donated to her, who clicked on the tab to give you money? What have you made off of her case?
To be honest, I have no idea what the amount of money would
if
have
she's,
been
let's
raised
say
off
she
that.
gets to $1 million, are you going to make like
Right.
250 grand, 100,000 off of it?
No. Not even close. But one of the things that we do at GiveSendGo, see, this is where we inject hope into all of these moments. You can see there's a pray button on that campaign, but we also have a prayer team at GiveSendGo, and we call all of these campaigns, and we actually do speak with them, and we actually do share hope with these people in the middle of
Just that she gets $1
suicidal
million.
moments.
I mean, and it's going through your site. Again, I understand what you're saying, big picture, but I just think I would have a hard
is
time
difficult.
going to bed at night knowing.
It is a hard time.
I would have a hard time going to bed at night knowing that my website is making that woman a millionaire. And that's not. I'm not being emotional about it. I'm just saying my own personal ethics. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, well, I believe in freedom of speech, freedom of association. These are foundational tenets to the society that we live in. And when you start going down the road of cancellation and cancel culture, it actually breeds the very things that we say that we're against. So when we
There's
talk
a
about
difference between cancel culture and canceling someone and giving them a platform to raise $1 million. I mean, there's a difference.
No, no, it's not. It's actually the same exact thing. This is the byproduct of this moment that we sit in culture, where there is so much fomenting divisiveness going on. It's a byproduct of 20 years of big tech platforms that have used the cancel culture mantra. We're just going to cancel people instead of making the hard decision of saying, hey, how do we navigate this well in the middle, where we're not just taking sides in the middle of these things, but how do we stay centered in the midst of it? Recognize the freedoms that we have in America, bring hope at the same time, and then navigate.
I don't get how this has anything to do with hope, especially with some of these cases. But we appreciate you giving your perspective, Jacob Wells. Thank you for coming on with us.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Brian.
Okay, coming up next, how was a dead man, such an interesting story, a dead man able to confront his killer in court? It actually happened. You're going to see it for yourself. We'll find out why some are saying this could create big problems for our legal system. It all has to do with AI right after the break. Last week in a courtroom in Arizona, a dead man, 37-year-old Chris Pelkey, confronted his killer in a murder sentencing impact statement. And if you don't believe me, take a look.
To Gabriel Horcasitas, the man who shot me. It is a shame we encountered each other that day in those circumstances. In another life, we probably could have been friends. I believe in forgiveness and in God who forgives. I always have, and I still do.
Now, here's the catch. That was actually AI. Pelkey was killed in a road rage incident in 2021. His sister, Stacey Wales, came up with the idea to create the AI video of her dead brother after prosecutors told her to bring him back to life at sentencing. But is allowing AI in a courtroom taking us down a very slippery slope? Joining me now is the victim's sister, Stacey Wales, and also former Judge Jeffrey Swartz. I appreciate you both being with us. Stacey, I'm so sorry for what happened to your brother. I watched the whole video. It was very, very touching to watch it, and I can't imagine what it was like to be in that courtroom. How did this come about?
I'd been writing my own victim's impact statement for 2 years since the first trial. After our retrial was rescheduled in March of 2025, we were then told that sentencing would be within 30 days of that. I tried writing my own impact statement from the information that I'd been collecting about my thoughts for 2 years. And when it came time to it, I couldn't get out what I wanted to say. It didn't sound genuine. It didn't sound kind. It didn't sound like anything Chris would say. And I couldn't help but thinking, he doesn't get a voice in this. Nobody knows what he thinks about this. He's the ultimate victim. So I turned to my husband, who has a background in AI, and I said, I know you've made avatars for other clients. Can you make one of my brother? And he says, Stacey, this won't work. If you don't know exactly what he'll say, I can't write that for you, and I won't give that to AI. And I said, I know exactly what he would say. I've been trying to write my own impact statement for 2 years, but I wrote his in 5 minutes, the good old-fashioned way with pen and paper. But I'd like to make an impact on this judge, and I'd like to humanize him. So can you do that? And he went off and used some tools with a friend of ours, and what the result is what was played before the judge.
Yeah, and again, just watching it, Stacey, it clearly had an impact. It was very, very well done and emotional. But Judge, I'm curious, from a legal perspective, what do you make of this? And is there any cause for concern?
There is cause for concern, because this could happen if this is admitted even as a victim impact statement. Are we now going to start having people project what they believe someone else would say, what they think someone else would say, create an AI and have it come out as if those are that person's words? That could affect the Sixth Amendment right of confrontation. I know, and I feel badly for Ms. Wales. Obviously, I'm sorry that this happened to her brother. But the fact of the matter is that the way she sees her brother may not be the way others see her brother. And presenting her brother in the light that she finds to be most favorable to him because she loves him and that's the way she sees him, does not mean that everybody else saw him that way. And it doesn't mean that that would have been what he had to say, even if she believes that that is what he would have said. So I have some problems with that. I think as a judge, I more likely than not would not have permitted this video. I don't think it's the person speaking themselves. His appearance apparently had been altered from what he looked like at the time that the event took place. There were other enhancements made. It's different than a victim who comes in and said, this person did this to me and this is what I want to say.
Stacey, was there any concern from the judge or prosecutor? Like, did you have to ask for permission to do this?
No. In the Victims' Bill of Rights in the Constitution of Arizona, we are authorized and permitted to say what we would like in any medium that we would like. There is no legal restriction to that.
Well, again, I appreciate you coming on. I'm sorry for what happened to your brother. It's a tragic case, and people should go watch the video in full because it really is touching. It's interesting to think about legally whether it's appropriate. Stacey Wales, thank you for coming on. Judge Jeffrey Swartz, appreciate it very much.
Have a great night, Brian.
Okay, when we come back, a little behind the scenes at The View. Dusty's got the inside scoop right after this.